it lit up when the pyramids went dark. So that was my interpretation of why they built that.
All right, and then let's move on to the walls of Peru, which I'm not really familiar with. I haven't done a lot of work on that.
Okay. Most of the pictures I illustrate in the book show the walls that are incredible, and they have kind of a strange feature, which I got curious about, and they're called projections. The bottom of each stone, there's two little projections that stick out, and you wonder, well, why did they leave those out? If they built this beautiful wall with such close-fitting stones, why wouldn't they have, either gotten rid of these things or how did they get there or whatever? Anyway, my observation about how that was done is that these stones that have those objects on them are man-made or Anunnaki-made. They're manufactured by injection molding. And I've seen evidence of molding signs in stones that shouldn't be there. In other words, a natural stone wouldn't have a board imprint in it. And all these little injection are left over. In other words, when they did the molding, they had to have some way to push this artificial stone in there, and they just never bothered to chop them off. Now, what triggered this, George, was that there's a guy who studied the casing stones I told you about on the pyramid. Mm-hmm. His name is Joseph de Verowitz. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a Frenchman. Did an analysis of the casing stones and declared that they were artificially made, that they were so perfect that the composition of the stone didn't match any quarries within 600 miles of the pyramids.
Jeez, another mystery.
Well, I mean, he's a guy that came up with something that I think is worth following. If this is a thing in Inca, the Inca walls, which looks to me like they were made, some of them, ones that have these little protrusions left on them, those perfect fitting stones just doesn't seem like you could make them that way. You can't even get a credit card in the joint there.
All right, and New World pyramids, you're talking about pyramids that you could find in Central and South America and places like that?
Yes, and the Olmecs are the ones that I think were involved in that, and also I think the son of one of the Anunnaki came over. They expelled him for some reason, and he said, I'm going to do it better. I'm going to build them better than we did in Egypt. And he produced these pyramids with the stairway on the outside. And the ones that are in Mexico City or near Mexico City have the same pattern as the three in Giza. In other words, there's a kind of a pattern of the Orion belt stars, two together and then one offset. Well, that exists in those pyramids, so it kind of gives me some belief that they could have been the same thing. And what the story of the Orion belt is yet to be solved.
All right, now we're getting into some other exciting areas. The crystal skulls.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, do you believe the crystal skulls were made by the Anunnaki? The authentic ones. Now, there's a lot of
the
junk
Mitchell
out there.
Hedges. The only one I have any truck with is the Mitchell Hedges because it's so perfect. And when it itself was tested by Hewlett-Packard in their labs, and they said it shouldn't exist. There are no marks on it. There's no way it could have been made. It's fashioned against the grain of the crystal.
They couldn't have chipped away at it, that's for sure.
They didn't touch it.
Or grind it.
No. So this, to me, is a interesting phenomenon, and because it's the same material as we use in our computers, I think it may contain some information, George, if we could just figure out how to get it out of it.
How to use it, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And there could be another piece that goes with it,
Right. Well,
maybe a body. You just put the head on top of it or something.
Right. So I have that in the book, and then we get to the Nazca line.
Yes, something that Eric von Daniken.
Yes. Well, when I wrote the book, I suspected one day I would find out, I would do some research, and I would try to understand why it was done and what it means. And just recently, a little over a month ago, I came up with a new theory that it is one gigantic time capsule. And
Nazca lines, for people who don't know what they are, a series of drawings on the earth, on the ground, that you really can only see from way above, right?
That's right. And
there's spiders, all kinds of things, monkeys.
Okay, it was done. No, they knew that one day we would obtain flight, and we would fly over this thing and see it, because that's the only way you can read it.
Okay, now, one argument is they were just humans who made them for the gods to see. Okay, all right, so let's put that out there.
All right. I believe that the one object on the plateau is the spider that the Indians couldn't have done. The reason I say that is that it's the rarest spider in the world, and it doesn't exist in that part of the world. It's 900 miles away in the Amazon jungle under the leaves where you hardly would find it. It's the rarest spider that they know of. So putting that spider on the plateau is an indication that they knew about it and nobody else could have done it. So I think that just cancels out the Indians. I hate to do that, but...
okay. So what were they? Were they visual what?
Okay. They were like we do. We bury time capsules with things that we know, and we want the future to know that we knew them. Okay, what these are all the local animals and birds that existed at the time they did this. Now, they did this maybe more than 3,000 years ago. And the most complex design on that plateau is the monkey. Now, get this. The monkey has 9 fingers, and his tail has got circles that look like orbits. And I think they were trying to tell us that they knew that there were 9 planets in our solar system, and those were the orbits in the tail, and the hands of the monkey, the 9-fingered monkey, are inside the Great Pyramid at Giza. There's a sketch that shows the pyramids. And attached to that are these parallel lines, which are so precision. It's the only precision part on the plateau, and I can explain how they did this, or how I think they did it. But I think it touches on the big pyramid where the monkey has his hands in, and I think it maybe indicates that the casing stones, because there's 8 surfaces. The pyramids, the 2 pyramids that had the casing stones on them had covered all 4 sides. So you had 8.
Well, you know what's amazing too, Marshall, is they don't seem to have weathered away.
Okay.
They don't seem to have moved. I mean,
well,
they're there.
The plateau is about 12,000 feet, I think, George, and it's 37 miles long and 1 mile wide, and the size of each of these drawings is humongous. I mean, like 2 football fields is the size of this. And the way it was created was there's little rocks that cover this plateau, and it doesn't rain there and the wind doesn't blow, so they can last for a long time. And you take and you separate the rocks as you draw your line away from the surface underneath it, and it's sand. So it shows up brilliantly in contrast to the rocky surface. And the other interesting thing about every one of these drawings is that the stylus that made them never leaves the plateau. In other words, it's a continuous line. If you look at the drawings and you see how they made them, no line ever crosses itself. It just forms the object of the bird, and then it comes out. And you say to yourself, well, that's pretty special. Somebody that thought about designing an art form that had one continuous stroke. Now, the next question is, how'd they make it from up above?
Let's come back and talk a little bit more about the Nazca lines, and we'll talk about the winged pilot, flying vehicles, and those cylinder seals, and some other fascinating subjects with Marshall Clarfeld, author of Adam the Missing Link on Coast to Coast AM. Next hour, we'll open up the phone lines for Marshall Clarfeld. Have you subscribed yet to the After Dark magazine? Well, do so or renew, and you'll get 2 free CDs, classic interviews with Malachi Martin that Art did a long time ago. They're yours, a gift, when you subscribe to After Dark magazine by calling 1-888-727-5505, or you can go online at coasttocoastam.com. There's some great photographs of the Nazca lines up there under the feature article at coasttocoastam.com. If you want to go take a look at those, if you have not seen them, they are remarkable. And if you have looked at them over the